Hey guys, welcome to another Mass Effect 3 class overview. This video we're featuring the N7 Paladin from the recently released Earth DLC. He's the derivative of the Sentinel class, and he functions as a sort of support type character. He doesn't really bring anything new or interesting to the table in terms of tech powers, but he does bring a huge shield that he can lay down, and to bring it out you just hold down your melee button. On Xbox, it's just the B button, as you would like for using a heavy melee attack, and he'll bring down the shield. But yeah, the shield definitely helps in terms of defense, distraction. It can take a lot of damage, especially, and there's perks to make it last a pretty long time. So, anyways, let's get to an overview of the powers. So the first power is Incinerate. It's your standard Incinerate tech power that you get from all the other original classes, so there's nothing really new or interesting that it adds here. The way I mostly use it, because the character that I use mostly uses short range weapons like shotguns and stuff like that. But the way I mostly use Incinerate is to either get people that are too far away to use like my shield or shotgun. So I use the Incinerate power to get those long range opponents. But I also use it to kind of take an enemy's guard down. So when you use Incinerate on an unshielded opponent, they kind of like start going crazy because they're on fire, and that allows you to get up close without getting shot at by them. And then once you get close enough to them, you can just bash them with your shield or shoot them with your shotgun. Now the next power is Power Drain. You'll definitely be using this power a lot because your character is all about using shields, and Power Drain allows you to drain the shields of others. It's a pretty useful power, and it's definitely the one that you're going to be using the most. It's very effective against shields and barriers, so you'll definitely be using it whenever you see an enemy with a shield or barrier up. It also works against any electronic enemies, so that includes Atlases and pretty much all of the Geth, even if they don't have a shield. So it works against those guys too. It definitely helps to get you out of sticky situations too, so when you use it, it restores your shield. So sometimes the way I use it is I plop down my shield, and if I'm taking damage from, say, behind me, and my regular personal shield is going down, sometimes I quickly pop out of the shield mode, the Omni-Shield mode, and use Power Drain on somebody who has a shield, and then that'll restore some of my personal shields so that I can go back into the Omni-Shield mode. And doing this will allow you to stay alive in sticky situations. Now the last tech power for the N7 Paladin is Snap Freeze. It's a different version of Cryoblast that you see from the other standard classes. It differs in that it has a reduced range compared to that of Cryoblast, but it makes up for that shorter range in that it can affect multiple enemies. So when you use it, it'll affect any enemies that you have immediately in front of you, so that it could be up to like 2 or 3 enemies. It also has its own damage effect too, which I don't think that the original Cryoblast had. And it can do like up to like 200 damage, and it's good for using against the small low-level enemies that come in hordes. So for example, like swarmers and husks, it's very useful to use this power against them. And lastly, it also has the effect of reducing enemy armor by at least 25%. It doesn't do that much. I've used it on, like, for example, brutes, and it doesn't really help that much, but it's a help nonetheless. And overall, this power is pretty good to use, and you'll have a lot of fun using it. Now, aside from the tech powers, the Paladin has what's called the Omni-Shield, and when you're in this mode and you activate it by just holding down the melee button like you would heavy melee attack, and you go into this mode where there's shields up and you can't move or anything, but you can get out by quickly rolling or using a power. But yeah, once you're in this shield mode, you can't move, and you can still look around to point your shield where you want. It can take a good amount of damage. I think my particular character, with the perks that he has, can take up his Omni-Shield can take up to 5,000 damage, so it can last pretty long. The main purposes that I use a shield for are, for one, support. So if one of my teammates is doing an objective and he needs some cover, I'll just lay down my shield, or if they're trying to revive a teammate, you could use it to provide covering so that they don't get shot as they're trying to pick up your teammate. And other times I use them for distraction. So if there's some big enemies, like say an Atlas or a Geth Prime or a Ravager, I lay down my shield and it'll distract the enemies while my teammates can take them out. The shield also works as a melee weapon, and it's a pretty effective weapon at that. It deals a lot of damage, and it just feels satisfying when you melee an enemy with the shield. It just gives a satisfying sound, and it just feels good. My particular character's shield also has the added cryo effect, so if I hit an enemy, he'll either freeze or slow down, and it also weakens armor, I think 50% for 5 seconds. Yeah, and I chose that over the fire effect because, well, one, I have the incinerate, which I can easily use, and I'd rather, if my shield doesn't kill them in one hit, I'd rather have them stay still than move around, and I have to kind of target them again. But yeah, the shield is definitely very useful. It is in both support and attack. The N7 Paladin has a pretty good advantage against the Geth than against the Cerberus or Reapers, because he can use the energy drain power against any enemy, Geth enemy, and that doesn't matter if they have a shield or not. So you can use the energy drain against regular enemies. The drawback is that you don't get as much shield back when you use it against normal enemies or just enemies that just have armor. You get the most shield back when the enemy that you use energy drain on actually has a shield. The Paladin also does well against the Cerberus because there's just so many enemies with shields and barriers that you can use the power drain a lot. And he does pretty good against even the Phantoms, so you can use your energy drain against the Phantoms to quickly get rid of their barriers, and then you can just easily kill them, like either like bashing your shield against them or other means, or shooting them. And you can also use the freeze power. Like, say you flank a Guardian behind, and Guardians can be pretty annoying. So if you are able to flank them and then use your snap freeze power, they'll drop the shields and also be frozen. So that's a good way to take care of those Guardians. The Paladin is probably the weakest against the Reapers because his shield powers don't do much to help against them. Like, for example, his Omni-Shield will not do much to stop the Brute Rush, or obviously it won't help with you with the Banshees. So overall, though, the N7 Paladin is a pretty fun class to play if you know how to use him. You know how to use his shield powers and tech powers in combination to the fullest effect. And you can actually use him for some pretty fast gameplay, and as I've used him more and more and I've grown more accustomed to him, I've actually been like leading the charge into battle with the support class. So yeah, definitely try out the N7 Paladin. You guys will definitely have a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.